My name is Alara Wyn, 20 years old. Love in our house was wrapped in glossy paper and addressed to my sister. The rest of us recycled the ribbon. Charlotte in December looked like a postcard. The white siding, the neat lawn, the porch swing that creaked like it was trying to sing along with the wind. Inside, the lights were warm and the math was cold. Tracy, 4 years older, had a talent my parents, Janet and Philip, called heaven sent. I had sense, which in our family meant quiet help and a smaller slice. I was 7 the first time I felt the tilt. Tracy tore into a big box and unearthed a professional drawing tablet. Sleek, silver, the kind that hummed promise when you touched it. Mom clapped, eyes shining. Dad lifted his camera like worship. When it was my turn, Mom handed me a wrinkled dollar store bag with a used backpack inside, faded blue with a zipper that stuck. Practical, she said, already turned back toward Tracy's new universe. I smiled like it fit. That's the thing about kids. We learn where to put our faces. It kept happening, just dressed in nicer years. For Tracy's 13th, there was a rented hall, a DJ, a cake stacked like a skyline and dusted in edible gold. A week later, at my 9th, Bethany from down the street was my single guest, and we ate store cupcakes at the kitchen table while Dad read the sports section. "You like to read," he said, sliding me a thrifted paperback whose spine had lost the will to stand. I did like to read. I didn't read that book. Bethany had braids held together by stubbornness, and a laugh that made our cheap sodas fizz over. "Your family's weird," she declared, licking frosting off her thumb before handing me the bigger half. "One day you'll show them." I didn't know how to show anyone anything, but her words planted themselves like bulbs under frost. High school widened the gap to something architectural. Tracy's certificates colonized the living room. My wins got a polite nod and a ride to the bottom of a drawer. When a short story of mine won a regional prize, Mom glanced at the certificate and said, "That's nice, Alara, but Tracy's portfolio is what colleges care about." I folded the paper so neatly you couldn't hear it crack. Tracy's graduation party glowed under string lights. There was a banner, Tracy's Bright Future. They gave her a brand new laptop, top of the line for UNC Charlotte's design program. I stacked plates and smiled for relatives who called me the helpful one. A year later, at my own graduation, we ate takeout pizza at home. 4 plates, no banner. When the moment came, Mom slid an envelope across the table with a smile that pressed instead of opened. "A little something," she said. Inside was a $5 lottery ticket, the cheap, scratch-off kind you get along with gas and forget in the glove box. "Maybe you'll get lucky," she added, like a punchline that had already found the laugh track. Tracy smirked, and Dad scrolled his phone. I tucked the ticket into my pocket because my hands needed to be doing something that wasn't breaking. Later, alone in my room, I held the ticket like a mirror and finally saw what they saw. I was sensible. Sensible doesn't get banners. So I moved out. I wrote a note, "I'm moving out. Don't worry," and left it next to the loaf of bread on the counter because I knew where Mom looked in the morning. The studio downtown was a box. The paint peeled along the window like a secret trying to escape. Trucks rattled the glass when they passed. The mattress was a thrift store rectangle that remembered other backs before mine. It was paradise. No one compared me to anyone. No one said we. The lock clicked, and the room was mine. I got a job waiting tables off Tryon Street. Burgers, bottomless coffee, the kind of regulars who called you hun and tipped in a math that depended on the weather. I took 2 community college classes when I could afford the extra hours. Intro to Media, Writing Workshop, and I taped my best paragraphs to the fridge like other people taped report cards. The group family chat kept blooming with Tracy's new clients and freshly painted rooms in the bungalow they'd bought her. Mom's captions were breathless. Dad's were 3 claps. I would type congrats and then delete it. Silence learned how to be a boundary. Bethany never let me stay gone from myself for long. She'd swing by with pizza and a cheap bottle of wine, and we'd make our own parties under my sputtering lamp. "You're building something," she'd say, eyes fierce, "even if they can't see it yet." She didn't say, "even if they don't want to." The lottery ticket lived in the drawer by my bed, tucked under coins that weren't enough to matter and a stack of bills that mattered too much. I didn't scratch it. I didn't believe in luck. Luck belonged to girls who got laptops and lawns with edges. Every few weeks, I'd open the drawer, notice the crumpled corner, and shut it again. It wasn't the money, it was the math of what I was worth to them, summed up in silver dust waiting to be scraped off. 1 year turned into 2. I learned the city by bus schedules and shoes that forgave me. I learned that hunger could be measured by how long you stared at the cereal aisle. I learned that the quiet after a double shift is the purest sound in the world. On a Friday that had already taken everything, I came home to a final notice from the electric company, the word final printed like a verdict. The kitchen bulb flickered hard enough to make the room feel like a warning. I slid down the cabinet to the floor, laughed once without humor, and looked at the drawer. Defiance can look like hope if you catch it fast enough. I took the ticket to the wobbly table, set my phone on the North Carolina lottery site, and found the current numbers. The coin in my hand was one Bethany had left on my counter, a state quarter, the kind with a pretty design on the back that makes you forget it's only worth 25 cents. Fine, I said out loud, to no one but the bulb and the bill and the ghost of every birthday that tasted like someone else's cake. Let's be done. I scratched the first panel. 12, then 25, then 38. My heart did that rabbit thing, dumb and fast. I checked the site, checked the ticket, checked the site. 12, 25, 38. The room felt smaller and bigger at the same time, like I was standing under a sky that had learned my name. I pressed the coin to the silver again. The last 3 numbers came slow, like the coin had learned suspense. 47, 53, 64. The website flashed its easy, cruel certainty, jackpot winner. For a breathless, stupid minute, I waited for a camera crew to explode out of my pantry. No one came. Just the fridge humming, the bulb giving up at last with a soft pop, and me at a wobbling table with a golden piece of cardboard shining through its missing silver skin. I didn't scream. I didn't dance. I did what sensible kids do when reality tilts. I put the ticket in a Ziploc, slid it into a paperback on my shelf, and sat on my hands so I wouldn't text the one person I trusted. Not Bethany, not yet. The win wasn't joy. It was a detonator with a pretty label. At 2 a.m., I typed, "What to do if you win the lottery," into a search bar that looked suddenly intimate. Every list said the same first commandment. Tell no one. Hire help. Move carefully. It felt like standing on a narrow bridge with a gorgeous view and no railings. I slept in slices and woke like I'd dreamed a whole other life. The ticket was still where I'd hidden it. I showered, dressed, and took the city bus to Uptown like I always did, arms wrapped around the secret so tightly you would have thought it might leak. Between tables at the diner, I called numbers I found online, attorneys, financial advisors, people whose headshots looked like they had steady hearts. Most sounded like sales. One didn't. "Sharon Wheeler," said a voice with the exact right kind of calm. 30 years doing this. Come in. Don't tell anyone you're coming. Bring the ticket. We'll make coffee. Her office sat in a glass tower that could supervise weather. Inside, leather chairs that didn't squeak, frame degrees, a plant thriving in a corner that probably killed weaker things. Sharon was 50-something with gray eyes and a suit that had retired from proving itself. She took one long look at my face, not my sneakers, and slid a legal pad between us. "This is not a fairy tale," she said. "This is a logistics problem, logistics we can solve." I unfolded the Ziploc and watched her not react. It steadied me more than champagne would have. For 3 hours, we played life chess. An LLC for anonymity, a trust with a mundane name, a tax attorney who spoke in numbers like other people speak in song. We charted the impacts. Federal, state, the thing that happens when luck meets law. "After taxes," Sharon said, tapping her pen, "you're likely walking away with around $42 million. It will land in a secure account that does not have your name on it. Don't buy anything flashy. Don't buy anything, period, for a few weeks. Practice being wealthy by not acting like it." "How do I practice?" I asked. "You keep working, you keep quiet. You make a list of what you want your life to feel like 2 years from now and reverse engineer." I held the coffee mug like a hand I could trust. "I want room," I said, "to learn without apologizing, to not be the girl who waits to be picked." "Good," Sharon said. "Wealth without intention is just entropy." A week later, the numbers in an online portal rearranged themselves until they weren't numbers anymore. They were air I could breathe. The figure sat there in black font, bigger than language, and my first thought was embarrassingly small. I can pay the electric bill. My second thought was Bethany's face when I told her, how her laugh would fly to the ceiling and stick there like a blessing. I did not tell her, not yet. Secrets grow best in quiet. I paid debts like they were ghosts I could finally lay to rest. Student loans zeroed, credit cards cut. I gave notice at the studio with peeling paint and found a modest townhouse with sunlight that came on schedule. Hardwood floors that held stories without telling them. A backyard the size of a sentence. The deed sat under the LLC's name. I bought a used Honda Civic whose only flash was reliability. At night, I walked the creaking halls of my new place and listened to the quiet decide to stay. The space between what I'd survived and what I was building felt like a bridge I hadn't known how to cross until I did. Sharon insisted we meet weekly. No drama, just spreadsheets and sanity. Buy a journal that isn't apologizing for itself, she said, and sign up for one thing that would have made younger you cry happy. I enrolled in a graphic novel course at the Art Institute, a room full of people who spoke in panels and inks, who believed story could move with the precise swagger of a well-drawn line. The first night, the instructor asked us to draw a door and then draw what we thought was behind it. I drew an empty room with light pooling on the floor. The class murmured like they'd tasted something. I kept my diner shifts for 3 more weeks. I needed to say goodbye to the version of me who had counted tips under a broken bulb. The regulars noticed something different. "You look lighter," one said. I shrugged and topped off his coffee. Weight leaves in places other people can't see until suddenly they can. Small purchases felt like rituals. A laptop that actually kept up with my hands. A set of pens that made committing to a line feel like a contract I was proud to sign. Lavender for the backyard, because some scents turn rooms into choices. I ate peaches that summer like a person who finally believed sweetness wasn't a limited resource. But life in a small city has its own gossip economy. I kept off social media. I didn't suddenly wear silk to buy milk. Still, Charlotte is a place where a new porch light becomes a conversation. Whispers travel faster than cars at green lights, Sharon had said, and I started to understand. Bethany came over one Saturday with pizza and a grin. She took in the floors, the light, the plant that hadn't died yet. "Alara," she said, palms on the countertop like it held a secret. "This place is gorgeous. What did you get a raise?" "Some side gigs," I said. It wasn't a lie if you cut it small enough, but the words felt like a pebble in my shoe. She didn't push, because she loved me. Later, at her favorite bar, she bragged the way friends brag. "My girl's leveling up," she told a coworker. "She deserves every inch of this." Pride is louder than silence, and it started to echo. A DM from a girl I barely knew. "You doing big things now?" Spill. An email from a cousin who had never once sent me a birthday text. "Heard you moved somewhere nice. Need help with a down payment, LOL." And then, after months of nothing, a ping in the Dead Family group chat that lit my phone like a siren. "Janet, we heard you moved. Why didn't you tell us?" I stared so long, the screen dimmed. I turned the phone over. The lottery ticket wasn't in a drawer anymore. It was everywhere, under my skin, in the air between sentences, a hum only I could hear. I locked the door and walked my small new rooms like they were a map I had finally learned to read. On the kitchen counter, my class assignment waited, a page of panels where a girl walks past a house that used to pretend it was hers. Outside, a car rolled by, slow, windows open, music fading. I wrote one line at the bottom of my page. Keep quiet. Learn the weight of your own name. Then I turned the phone back over and watched the typing bubbles appear. The typing bubbles stopped, then disappeared. For a moment I thought they'd given up, but the next ping came quick. "Tracy. Hey, Elle, long time. Mom says you got a cute new place? Spill." Her tone was all sunshine, but even text had weight, and this one sagged under old habits. Casual charm hiding an audit. I didn't reply. I poured tea instead, the sound of it covering my pulse. Within days, the whispers that had started in bars and break rooms found new mouths. Charlotte's social circles were too small for secrets. A friend of a friend just happened to mention that I'd left the diner, that I was doing well, that I had money now. None of them knew how much, just enough to turn curiosity into appetite. By Wednesday, Sharon's prediction had come true. She called before I could call her. Rumors travel faster than facts, she said. I'm guessing your family reached out. They did, I said, watching the phone light flicker against my wall. Then it's time to tighten the walls. I'll re-register your LLC through a new holding. Change your mailing address. Keep transactions boring. Her voice was calm, clinical, but beneath it was something close to concern. Alara, she added, don't underestimate nostalgia. It's the camouflage people wear when they're coming for something. That night, I drafted an email to my landlord asking to forward all mail to a P.O. box. Then I locked my social accounts one by one. Each deactivation felt like quietly closing blinds. But even closed windows don't stop echoes. On Friday, my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I let it ring, then played the voicemail. Mom's voice, syrupy and soft. Sweetheart, it's been so long. We just want to catch up. Tracy says you've been busy. We're proud of you. Let's have dinner Sunday. Just family. 2 words caught like fishhooks. Just family. The same phrase they had used when they'd left me out of parties, holidays, every celebration that had space for everyone but me. The words I'd swallowed once and promised never to taste again. I deleted the voicemail, but my thumb hesitated on the message icon. What if this was different? What if, even now, they wanted connection, not currency? Then another text appeared, as if timed for irony. Tracy, heard you're doing great, sis. Let's hang out before Sunday. My treat. My breath left me in something between a laugh and a sigh. I'd waited years for Tracy to notice me. Now she noticed because she thought I was useful. I didn't answer. Bethany stopped by that night with takeout noodles and a guilt-colored expression. I think I messed up, she said. How? She twisted her napkin. That bar night, I bragged about your place. I didn't mean to. I was just happy for you, but people talk. I smiled, the tired kind that forgives before it processes. You didn't do anything wrong. I just forgot what small cities do best, she exhaled. You're sure? Yeah, I lied gently. Don't worry about it. After she left, I walked through the townhouse, every floorboard creak sounding like a question. What was I protecting anymore, the secret or myself? The following afternoon, Sharon texted a single line. Expect escalation. They'll test the door before they knock. She was right. By Sunday morning, my phone buzzed again. This time a group call. Mom, Tracy, and Dad all on speaker. I answered because silence can sometimes sound like surrender. Hi, honey, Mom began too brightly. We're having dinner tonight. Nothing fancy. We'd love for you to come. Her voice cracked on love. Not a tremor of emotion, the kind you get when you're reciting a line you don't quite believe. I stared at my reflection in the kitchen window, hair pulled back, sweatshirt soft from years of wear, and wondered when they'd last said my name like it wasn't a question. I'll think about it, I said. Tracy jumped in. Come on, Elle, we miss you. It'll be nice. Just us. Her us was always conditional. I wanted to say no. I wanted to hang up and keep my peace intact. But another voice, the one that still needed proof, whispered, maybe they've changed. All right, I said finally. I'll be there. Mom gasped like she'd just won something. Wonderful. 6 o'clock. Don't be late. When the call ended, I set the phone down and leaned against the counter, letting the quiet settle like dust. Bethany called an hour later. You're not seriously going, are you? I have to, I said. I need to know if they see me or what they think they see. And if it's the latter, then I'll leave before dessert. She was silent for a moment. You're braver than you think, Elle. Or dumber, I said, forcing a laugh. Same thing, sometimes. That evening, I drove toward the old house, the one that looked unchanged from the outside. White siding, trimmed hedges, porch swing sighing in the breeze. From the curb, it could have been any family's home. From the inside, it had always been a stage. I parked the Civic behind Dad's aging sedan and took a breath that felt like both armor and surrender. Inside, the smell of roasted chicken and lemon cleaner hit like nostalgia and tension braided together. Mom's hug lasted a second too long. Dad's nod was curt, practiced. Tracy's smile was sugar crystallized, pretty but brittle. Look at you, Mom said, scanning me head to toe, her eyes cataloging, not admiring. You look successful. Thanks, I said. You look the same. Dinner started polite, as all ambushes do. Tracy filled the silence with stories about her latest design clients. Mom punctuated every line with pride, and Dad mumbled agreement between bites. They didn't ask about my job, my art, my classes, me. Halfway through dessert, a store-bought pie cut unevenly, Mom set down her fork and cleared her throat. Mel, sorry, Alara, she began, correcting herself as if the wrong name had slipped out of habit, not truth. We've been talking as a family. The air thickened. Tracy has an incredible opportunity, Mom continued. She's opening her own design studio. It's a dream she's had forever. I nodded once. Good for her. Well, she said, eyes softening in practiced sympathy, it's a big investment, about $500,000 to get started, but it'll be a sure thing. Dad finally looked up, his tone managerial. We figured you might want to help. You've done so well for yourself, and family helps family. There it was. The reason they'd invited me back into their orbit, not for dinner, but for down payment. I felt the words before I spoke them, heavy and sharp like coins you can't swallow. Family, I repeated quietly. That's what this is? Mom blinked. Of course. I leaned back, my pulse steady now. Then where was family when I worked double shifts to pay tuition? When I lived off instant noodles because no one offered to help? When I got the lottery ticket you thought was a joke? Tracy's fork froze midair. What's that supposed to mean? It means, I said evenly, I learned that your kind of family only shows up when there's something to gain. Mom's voice trembled. Whether from guilt or irritation, I couldn't tell. Don't twist this, Alara. We just thought you'd want to be part of something bigger. For once. I already am, I said. It's just not yours. I stood, my chair scraping against the tile. Enjoy your studio, Tracy. Work for it. You'll appreciate it more. And before anyone could speak, I walked toward the door. Wait, Mom said, reaching out, her fingers brushing my sleeve. Don't do this. We're family. I turned to her, soft but final. No, you're blood. Family's something else. Outside, the night was crisp and quiet. The porch swing moved slightly, catching a breeze that smelled like lemon cleaner and endings. I exhaled, the cold air filling the space where guilt used to live. My phone buzzed as I reached the car, Bethany's name lighting the screen. You okay? She texted. I typed back. I think so. For the first time, yeah. As I pulled away, the old house shrank in my rearview mirror, smaller than I remembered, like a memory finally right-sized. Whatever they wanted, they couldn't take anymore. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of what they said, but because of what I finally didn't feel. No shaking hands, no rehearsed guilt, no imaginary arguments looping in my head. Just quiet, the kind that hums when you've closed the right door. By morning, sunlight sliced through my curtains like clarity. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. 4 missed calls from Mom, 2 from Tracy, 1 from Dad. I didn't listen to the voicemails, but I did read the text that came next. Mom, you humiliated us. After everything we've done, how could you be so cruel? I stared at the words, then I smiled. Small, tired, but real, because for the first time, they weren't asking for money. They were asking for power back. I didn't give it. Instead, I opened my laptop and started something new, a business plan. Not for Tracy's dream, for Bethany's. We'd joked about it for years, her own print shop, a space where local artists could see their designs in ink, where stories could literally take shape. She'd called it Ink Haven back when we were broke and sharing cheap takeout, saying, if I ever make it, that's the name. Somewhere safe for people like us. Now I could make it real, quietly. No champagne announcements, no family press releases. Just a transfer, a lease, and a dream, given a chance to breathe. I called her that afternoon. Hey, got a minute? For you? Always. What's up? Remember Ink Haven? She laughed. What? My imaginary empire? It's not imaginary anymore. There was a pause, the kind that comes before disbelief. Alara, what are you talking about? I want to back you, fully. Space, equipment, startup, all of it. You've carried me through every low. Let me carry this one. The line went silent, then a shaky inhale. You don't have to. I know, I said. That's what makes it real. When she came over an hour later, she was still half convinced I'd lost my mind. I pulled up the documents, the LLC structure, the budget breakdown. Watching her eyes fill wasn't about money. It was about witnessing someone who'd believed in me finally see I'd been listening. This isn't charity, I told her. It's gravity. You pulled me up when I was falling. Now I'm just returning the physics. She wiped her eyes and laughed through it. You and your metaphors. Occupational hazard, I said. While Bethany threw herself into designs, I threw myself into stories. My graphic novel class had become a lifeline. I spent nights drawing, writing, revising until sunrise. The protagonist, Arden, had started to look a little like me. Tired eyes, steady spine, someone who'd learned to build peace from the scraps of her own endurance. When I handed in the first full draft, my instructor, a quiet man who wore paint like cologne, said, "You've got something here. It's more than art. It's reckoning." I didn't tell him how literal that was. Weeks passed. Then one afternoon, as I watered the lavender in my backyard, Sharon called. "Got your message," she said. "Helping a friend start a business?" "Yes, I'm investing through the trust." "Smart, quiet, controlled." She paused. "You're not doing this to prove anything to your family, are you?" I smiled. "No, I'm doing it to prove something to myself, that love doesn't have to cost pain." She hummed approvingly. "That's the first sign you're wealthy, in more than one way." Ink Haven opened that spring in a little downtown corner, framed by brick and sunlight. Bethany hung the sign herself, her hands trembling so much I had to steady the ladder. When she turned to me, eyes shining, she said, "You know, Mel, sorry, Alara, you just gave me my life back." "Funny," I said. "You did the same for me." We stood there as the door unlocked for the first time, and I felt something I hadn't in years. Belonging. Unborrowed. The next week, my graphic novel was accepted by a small press in Raleigh. The email said, "Your story feels lived in, like truth disguised as fiction." They were right. I didn't tell my family. I didn't need to. I let the quiet be my applause. Still, silence in their direction didn't mean peace from theirs. One Thursday, as I packed art supplies into the trunk of my car, a familiar figure appeared on the sidewalk. Tracy. Same careful makeup, same polished smile. She looked like she'd rehearsed this scene. "Alara," she said, "you've been ignoring Mom." "I've been busy." "She's worried." "She's always worried when she's not in control." Her eyes flickered. "Look, I get it. You're angry. But you've got, what, money now? Why can't you let the past go?" "Because it keeps showing up on my driveway." She flinched. "That's not fair." Neither was 20 years of pretending I was invisible. For a moment, the mask slipped. Her voice cracked just slightly. "You think it was easy for me? Mom and Dad put all their pressure on me, too. I was their trophy, not their daughter." The words hit like static, unexpected, jagged, half true. I studied her. "You're saying you didn't like it?" "I'm saying it broke me differently." For a second, we stood there. Two grown women shaped by the same house, just carved in opposite directions. Then she whispered, "I really am starting that studio, you know. I'm doing it alone this time." I nodded once. "Good. Maybe we'll both finally build something without debt." Tracy's lip quirked, half apology, half pride. "You always did talk like a novel. And you always did underestimate me," I said. She laughed, a small, tired sound, then turned and walked away. When she was gone, I felt no triumph, no bitterness, just the strange quiet that comes when war ends, and you realize the battlefield is finally empty. That night, I sat at my desk, pen hovering over a blank page. My next story's title came easy, Inheritance. Because that's what this was, in the truest sense. Not money, not legacy, but the courage to decide who I let shape me next. By the time summer came, Ink Haven was thriving. Bethany sent photos of artists signing their prints, smiling under the same fluorescent lights that once felt too harsh. My graphic novel launched to small crowds, but big feelings. Readers wrote messages saying it felt like their story too. Quiet victories, broken families, the slow miracle of self-worth. And one morning, while scrolling through emails, I saw one that froze me. From Tracy Wyn. Subject, your book. I opened it. "I saw your novel in a store downtown. I read it. I think I finally understand what I look like through your eyes. It hurt. But maybe that means it's true. I'm proud of you, Alara. I hope one day we can talk again, without money between us." I sat back, the letter trembling slightly in my hand. For a long time, I didn't move. Then I smiled. Because maybe, just maybe, this was what real inheritance looked like. Not houses, not handouts, but honesty finally paying its debt. Autumn found its way to Charlotte like an apology. Soft, hesitant, golden at the edges. The lavender I'd planted out back had turned silver in the chill, but it still smelled like peace. I'd started to sleep with the window cracked, letting the wind remind me that quiet wasn't the same as loneliness. It had been 4 months since Tracy's email. I never replied. Not out of spite, but because some messages are best left as echoes. They lose their meaning if you try to rewrite them. But she didn't vanish this time. Every so often, she sent short updates. The studio's open. Got my first big client. It's smaller than I imagined, but it feels real. No ask for money, no manipulation, just words. And I let them sit there, unopened sometimes, like seeds waiting for the right season. Mom was different. Her texts still came in waves, apologies dressed as guilt, check-ins that smelled like bait. Your father's been unwell. You could at least call. We're having Thanksgiving here. It would mean a lot. We're proud of you, no matter what you think. I didn't reply to those either, but I kept them all. Maybe as evidence that people could regret things even if they never learned how to make them right. Then, one chilly morning, as I sipped coffee on the porch and outlined my next book, my phone rang. Sharon. Got a question for you, she said, her voice dry as usual. Do you ever plan to take a victory lap? Or is humility your new brand? I laughed. I'm not interested in victory. I just want quiet. Quiet's nice, she said. But you've built something remarkable. Maybe let the world see it. I did, I said, looking at the copy of my novel on the table. They're reading it. Good answer, she said, chuckling. Then her tone softened. You know, Alara, most people drown in the flood when money hits. You built a bridge instead. I thought about that all day, the bridge. Maybe that's what all of this had been. The years of invisibility, the ache of that $5 ticket, the loneliness of my early independence. It had all been material. I hadn't just walked away from my family, I'd built something on the other side. That night, I met Bethany for dinner at a little cafe tucked under a string of fading fairy lights. Ink Haven had become a fixture downtown now, a small, thriving world full of laughter and paper dust. She'd just hired 2 interns and was already talking about expansion. I still can't believe you did this, she said, stirring her drink. You did it, I said. I just cleared the path. Bethany grinned. You know, the old you would have apologized for that sentence. The old me thought peace had to be earned through exhaustion, I said. The new me knows it's quiet work, not self-sacrifice. She raised her glass. To quiet work, then. We clinked. Halfway through dessert, she hesitated. You ever think you'll forgive them? I didn't have to ask who she meant. Forgiveness isn't a door, I said after a pause. It's a window I open sometimes to let the air in, but I don't invite them inside. Bethany nodded, her eyes soft. That's actually kind of beautiful. It's also the only way I can sleep at night. A week later, I got a letter, handwritten, trembling, the return address in my mother's careful script. I almost tossed it unopened, but something made me sit down and read. Alara, your father's health isn't good. He's been quiet lately, and I think it's guilt more than illness. He said he misses your laugh, the one you had as a child when you used to hide under the kitchen table during storms. We both miss you. I know words can't undo what we did, but if you ever find it in your heart to see us again, we'd like that. Not for money. Just for time. Love, Mom. I folded the letter carefully and placed it in my desk drawer next to the old lottery ticket, the one that had started it all. Both pieces of paper felt like chapters from a book I'd already finished, but couldn't throw away. For a few days, I couldn't decide what to do. Sharon's voice echoed in my head. Wealth without intention is entropy. Maybe forgiveness worked the same way. If you don't use it intentionally, it just sits there, heavy and useless. So I drove, not to the old house, but to the hospital listed at the bottom of the letter. Dad was thinner than I remembered, his hair grayer, his authority smaller. Mom sat by the bed, hands folded like a truce. When she saw me, her eyes filled. Not dramatic, not performative, just human. Alara, she whispered, you came. I stood in the doorway a moment before walking in. I'm not staying long, I said. I just needed to see for myself. Dad's voice was hoarse, barely more than a scrape. You look happy. I am, he nodded weakly. Good. I hoped you'd... He stopped, catching breath. Make something of that ticket. I used to call it a joke. I was wrong. I didn't cry. I didn't need to. You could have just said you were proud, I said quietly. I am, he whispered, eyes closing. Too late, maybe, but I am. Mom reached for my hand, tentative. Thank you for coming. I let her hold it, for a moment. Then I pulled away gently. Goodbye, Mom. When I stepped out into the parking lot, the cold air hit like clarity. I'd given them what they wanted. Not forgiveness, exactly, but witness. Sometimes that's all closure needs. That night, back home, I opened my journal and wrote, They gave me a lottery ticket to mock the idea of luck. But luck was never the prize. The prize was the distance it bought me, the view I got when I finally walked far enough to see the whole story. I looked at the ticket again, faded now, the numbers still legible. I smiled. "Thanks for the push," I whispered, tucking it back into the drawer. Then I turned off the lights and let the quiet come back, soft and certain. Some wins don't glitter. They just end well.